test, 1, 2, test, test.
That brings me back to like our last discussion, doing a bit of the Rick Rubin, the test, 1, 2.
2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2.
So good. Good to see you, Paulie.
Good to see you too, Tommy boy. I will refrain from using my previous nickname for you.
It was an interesting one. We'll see if it sticks. Pardon the pun.
um,
Oh, yeah.
what's happening, dude?
Mate, I'm on uni holidays at the moment. So that's been enjoyable. I've been getting into lots of writing again. I've just started a book called The Grieving Brain, which is
Wow,
really good. Really, really good.
band.
Yeah, the researcher is Dr. Frances Mary O'Connor, which would be an epic show for you and I to do together, I reckon.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
she's That'll be next year. So she's actually writing her second book at the moment called The Grieving Body, which I love the idea of just like the sequel there, but basically just kind of looking at what happens in the brain specifically. So like grief from a neuroscience perspective, which I don't know about you, Paulie, but like for me, that was actually a bit of a challenge to start reading that book because grief for me sort of carries like a lovely um almost like an art or romanticism about it. You know, the loss of someone. I can just feel myself getting immersed in what literature could teach me about grief. So seeing what the brain does has been an interesting insight.
Wow. So like what resonated mostly, like what concepts resonated mostly with you with that book?
Well, I've always loved grief, which is a weird thing to say. I've always been like fascinated by grief because it's so painful and profound, and I think like it took on a new meaning for me when I lost our dog, and I was confused by that because like the rational part of my brain was thinking, dude, it's a dog, but then the emotional part of me was like, dude, it was your dog.
Yeah.
I was there was a really weird conflict going on. So then I started looking at the research, and one of the thing. So the science jargon is the variable that modulates the correlation. Which, as you know, is obviously the variable that changes what occurs is how close you are to the lost pet or human being, right? And
Mm.
because Steve just followed us around everywhere, and I remember when you and I discussed this, when we were talking about the pet that you'd lost, and the grief that you feel was so insane. But from that time onward, I was kind of interested in what was going on because I was trying to watch myself when I was grieving, and constantly, acting in ways that were irrational because he wasn't there anymore. And yet I would go and do these things like trying to like overcome these old habits and getting used to the fact that he wasn't around. So that's
Mm.
kind of what took me to it. But yeah, I think the hardest thing for the brain is that what I've learned so far is that the brain is a map. It tries to map our environment. And the things that are most important for it to know at all times on that map are where to get food, where to get shelter, and really where are your friends and your loved ones because those attachments are so strong for our survival. And when like the brain just can't compute something disappearing, like where did it go? And it's a massive recalibration phase that occurs there. But yeah, it's an amazing, amazing book so far.
Sounds incredible. It sounds incredibly deep. Like I know you only know how to go, which I love. Like I think it's yeah, it's next level stuff, and I love these chats because you give me a really deep understanding of your own personal experience with it as well. So sounds cool. I'm gonna have to put that on the list.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. Well, let's do a nice little segue there. What's been on your list? Done, doing, going to.
Oh look, I've what have I been? I've been reading a combination of fiction and non-fiction, as I usually do. Most non-fiction I tend to listen to. Um, I just finished reading this book on it's for lack of a better word, it's being able to achieve goals through positive habit creation and I suppose where I'm at with my own stuff right now is I've been in the fitness world for a long time now, and my interest levels have really gravitated heavily towards not the what, but the why, and
Mm.
how you can keep persisting, how the mind is the CEO of the body, and being able to establish habits and kind of continue them, not just in the short term. And that's also what fascinates me. It's like how so many of us can establish a pathway and then self-sabotage
Mm.
very, very quickly. So it's about establishing these long-term habits, and it was a really, really great book, and I wish I remembered the name of it.
It's always the way when you go through too many.
The name of the author was Abdul someone or other. He's really cool, and but actually a quote that resonated pretty strongly with me from Alan Watts, who
Oh,
he quoted, who I know you're a fan of, and it was "Be sincere but not serious,"
mm.
and, and I love that because I think so many people might, and including myself, um, feel that you need to be serious to be sincere,
Mm.
but they're actually worlds apart. You can immerse yourself in sincerity, and be as playful as you like.
Mm. How would you define the two, Paulie?
I think sincerity to me is like earnest and like heart centered, and being truly immersed in whatever path that you would like to go down. Um, and serious is, I see serious as just like a, I suppose, an emotion, or what would you define serious as? Uh,
Maybe it's like the feeling that comes to me, but just like, yeah. But I can see the distinction, you know.
I'm losing the words to be able to define both, but sincerity to me is like, it's like true earnestness, being present,
Right.
um, being in the moment, and having kids over the last few years. There's nothing more rewarding than being sincerely playful.
Mm, mm, mm.
In fact, it's like the best fucking thing in the world. Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, I suppose I've really in the past mistaken the two, or I've clumped them both together, and it just taught me. It was just like one of those aha moments. It kind of gave me a little bit of you don't need to be like, um, you don't need to be serious to be sincere.
Right, right. And almost like seriousness almost like gets in the way. Like I'm wondering if you ever have to be serious. I don't know. Like I'm just thinking
But that's it. Yeah,
why right now.
yeah, that's right. Like, the fellow who wrote this book he's got an interesting story. He's like this YouTube sensation now, but like he grew up studying to become a doctor.
You talking
Uh,
about Ali Abdul?
yeah, Ali Abdul.
Oh shit, that book about productivity.
Yeah,
Oh yes, yes. He's amazing.
he's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. The way he explains
Feel good productivity.
feel good productivity.
Good book. Good book.
Have you read it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Great. It's really good. Yeah, it's really, really good.
So,
I'll
so
let
he,
you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So he talks about, like, doctors, because I listened to an interview with him, and they were like, that's all good and proper, but can you be playful when you are operating on a person and it's life or death? And he's
Right.
like, the most successful surgeons are playful. They're putting on tunes in the background. They're wearing bright colors. They're getting G'd up. They're being playful. It's almost like, and this sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it's like they're kind of playing a video game,
Right. Right.
because it gives you the opportunity to just be fully immersed in what it is that you're doing, as opposed to like having these mental weights,
Yes.
when you're doing what it is that you're doing in whatever it is, if it's surgery, if it's this, if it's that, whatever.
Yes. Well,
Ali Abdul.
Ali Abdul. I mean, one of the things that's awesome about that book is like he factors in playing video games into what constitutes productivity. I can't remember his definition of productivity. It's like something to do with intentionality,
Yes.
doing something, without just sort of going into that unconscious program, right? But you can't flow in life if life is heavy. So it's like I mean the obvious metaphor there is you're just getting bogged down by being stuck behind some sort of piece of debris in the river,
Yeah.
being held down by a bag of rocks or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think like, I don't know, Paulie, like, I don't know about you, man, but the more I think about how to live a good life, the more I think it correlates to how often you can get into flow. I don't
Mm.
know if you think about that much, but yeah.
I do. And when you, it's hard to be in flow and have an out of body experience or reflect on it when you're in flow because
Right.
it's counter, like it doesn't, it defeats the purpose of being in flow. But like looking back on moments when you are in flow, it's like time stands still.
Hmm.
Can you remember a time when you are, or can you remember those poignant time where you were like deeply in flow?
I mean, I try to access it every day if I can with my writing, but you can't, to your point, like I can't, like I wrote this morning, I went for a drive. There's a beautiful cafe that overlooks a lovely view of a dam and the hinterland up here. Um, and So I drove up there, was sort of getting lost in like some nice calming music to get myself ready for it. And then that's the annoying thing about flow, to like the annoying parrot thing about the paradox of it is like now it's the afternoon. I'm like, I know that's good because
Yeah.
I got really productive writing in. It's also shit because I'd love to be conscious in that ecstasy, It's like I'm like grasp at it.
Totally get it. One thing I've been setting an intention for over the last few weeks is removing all forms of distraction when I'm eating. Something as simple as eating, but it's something that everyone does every day, and it's been a remarkable kind of um, I suppose experience for me because I sit there and whilst it's very intentional, but the removing of all forms of distraction just gives you that opportunity to shed a new light on something that you do and take for granted day in day out. And I feel even if it's just for a second, even if it's just for a minute, I'm in that flow state. I'm there, and completely present, and I'm experiencing the colors. I'm experiencing the tastes. I'm experiencing everything that I wouldn't experience previously
Mhm.
associated with eating, which has been really cool.
Which also is cool because it tells me that you can be very deliberate about how you go about accessing the flow state. It's not just something that um, if you're lucky enough because you've taken the right pill at a festival, then you'll be able to have it. Like you can actually get it in bite-sized pieces, pardon the pun. But that's so good. That's so good. And I'd be the first to put my hand up and say I'm totally unconscious when I eat. I need to be more intentional about my food because on the time, during the times when I do it, the feta is nicer, the olives are better, the meat is more succulent.
Absolutely, and that's why I choose these challenges for myself because it's usually things that I am currently neglecting or not putting enough attention to for my liking
Yeah.
in current life. So yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
little reminder.
Paulie, I had a question. You said before, and obviously you and I have chatted over the phone a lot. When a lot of your coaching and your work is helping people how to move better, but you're now sort of moving toward the why. Do you think your business is going to change a little bit as a result of that?
I think it can't help but. Um, and I think there's been some fear for me in that realm, if I was to be completely honest and
Yeah.
vulnerable, because uh, you know we all change and evolve when it comes to our interests and that's why you can pick up a book and you can reread it, and you can get a completely different series of lessons and meanings from it. The books remain the same, but you have changed as an individual. So,
Mm.
like, I think businesses are the same. If you're creating your own business and you start it with an intention to move better, be healthier, but you have changed as a person and your focus has changed, then being an entrepreneur and being a business owner, I've run my own business now for over 20 years.
Mm.
And um, I feel like running your own business is a complete extension of who you are.
Right.
If you wanted to be truly immersed, empowered, and fully, have that extension of you be your business, then you can't help but have your business evolve with you.
Yes. Which scares me if I'm being honest, because it's like as we evolve, like do you sometimes feel that your business and how you have to actualize it with the material logistics and all that sort of stuff, do you sometimes see it as like being stuck to some older version of you in a way?
Yes. Short answer is yes. And it's something that, I kind of grapple with often.
Yeah.
And then there's fear associated with putting your new learnings out there from a branding perspective or whatever it might be. And it's like, hey, this is what I've learned. This is what I want to be able to introduce into what I stand for.
Right.
And if your business is essentially you, then you feel dishonest not having your business evolve with you.
Yes.
And there's this kind of push and pull, tug of war between what do I let be at the forefront, and what do I keep back? But you're so right. Like, do you notice that with your own business?
Well, I mean, that's why I don't really like I've really grappled with that, man. And I think that's why I don't um really off run a business. I used to, with Siobhan and I and doing our programs and things like that. But I think that the way that I feel most sort of flowy and in the present is if what I offer is in my reading and then also, with our podcast. Um, so because I just and then also with being a therapist as well, you meet a diverse range of individuals, which
Mm.
is enough variety for me to feel like I'm sort of learning from people, with all different various sort of conditions and issues and struggles and challenges and all that sort of stuff. And I sort of feel like an instrument that can play in different songs as that continues to grow without ever having to feel sort of stuck. Because I think like let's just say for example, like I started some sort of like I don't know. I opened up my own CrossFit gym or something back when I was really into CrossFit, you know, and then 6 years or 7 or 8 years later now, you know, it's been a very long time since I've done CrossFit, but let's say it's a really successful gym. Not that this is by any means the wrong way to live life. This is just being totally congruent with what's coming up to me now. I would feel personally sort of stuck to that. Like I can't sort of move beyond it. And then I also wouldn't know how to integrate who I am now into that business. And the question then is if I did that, would then that be not for the best interests of my clients? And that's actually only serving me.
It's a really That's a fascinating question, and that's the exact I suppose predicament I grapple with regularly. And
Yeah.
I think what I've come to in kind of breaking that down is that it's okay to lean on lessons that you've learned in the past and what's been your truth in the past, if it serves people. And it's almost like you have this toolkit that you evolve and you develop over time, with experience. And it's like, okay, so um, you're learning about grief now, and you're developing an understanding of the complexities of grief, that might not be relevant to a client or a patient that you have, but it's there and it will make you a more understanding therapist.
Right.
Uh, Whether you use the terminology or the strategies, perhaps you may not, it may not be at the forefront, but it does add to who you are as a therapist or a coach.
Yes. 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 And I also actually think like when you're speaking there, I think like any teacher, which I believe is any human being, which I also believe then is every human being, you know, um, by definition is teaching something that they've already learned. So through the process of teaching anyway, you're already um it's like it's like if someone is teaching me something, then they have to come back down the staircase to be
Mm,
with me.
mm,
Now what they're learning about is where they need to be. But if they want to help me, um, then they have to walk back down. And I think that's, without getting too metaphysical here, I think that's what's so interesting about the end of every heroic archetypal story is
mhm,
that the hero brings the treasure back to the society, or
mm.
brings the lesson learnt back and shares it.
Yeah,
It's not just, he slayed the dragon now, or Gautama's been realized as the Buddha under the tree, and then he fucks off to Nirvana and never comes back. No, like he comes back
yeah.
for the sake of everyone else. So that's the part about being a teacher or a therapist or a coach or a leader or whatever it is, that you can only really be that person if to some degree you're not actually acting for yourself, you're acting for the benefit of others.
Spot on. And in the book by Ali Abdul, there was actually a part of it where he cites credible studies that have proven that those who are able to teach what they have learned are able to retain and learn with much greater success than those who simply just accrue the information and carry on with life.
Mm. Paulie, it took us 25 minutes and we got deep. It's so
I think we
good.
got
Back
tape
on.
in 25 seconds, mate.
This is true. I love that, man. It's like I'll share something with you at the moment. I've been sort of feeling like a sense of disconnectedness
Yep.
for from like life, I think, but it's not just life. I don't think it's from people, or maybe there's a bit of community, but I've been thinking about, just exploring a religion,
Yeah,
not
right.
necessarily like a Christian. It doesn't have to be Christianity or Catholicism, what I grew up in, but Hinduism, it could be, Hinduism, Judaism. I don't know. Like it's just it's kind of like I've got when I speak to people who are spiritual or religious, deeply spiritual or religious, there's this lovely sense of everything's okay that I get from them. You know,
Faith.
do you know what I mean? Like,
It's faith.
yeah, faith. That's it. But that's exactly right. That connection to something where they don't need to know the facts. They
Yeah.
don't need to actual intellectualize things. They just have that things are going to be okay. And I don't have that, and I'd like to have that. I don't feel like I'm like too rational or scientific or whatever, but I don't think I'm enough of the other side.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's very interesting what you bring up, and that balance between rationality and faith is, it's like a dance, because
Right.
I can go through, like, have you had any experiences in your life where you've just fully, like, just known without
Never,
rationality?
never. No, I don't know what that's like, and I would love to know. I mean, I've had some, very important psychedelic experiences,
Mhm.
very important to me and my growth. But I think like it's like sometimes I feel like my quest for knowledge gets in the way. I love, love, love to learn. Always reading, always talking to great people like yourself. But then sometimes I wonder if it gets in the way of me just feeling and stopping and, you know, that being okay, just being in the present moment as to sort of peering down on the present moment and looking at all and checking it out, how it all works and everything.
Do you
Yeah.
think you can? Do you think you can be both?
I don't know. I don't know. Like I would, I would hope so. I hope it's not an either or. I hope it's like a
Yeah,
both and
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Um, I think to your point though, it's a dance. Like you can't ever be both at the one time. But if you're too far, if you're dancing with two left feet, so to speak, maybe it's time to sort of readjust, and
yeah.
balance that seesaw a little bit. But that is kind of, I feel like where my path is going a little bit now. It's like less of the intellect stuff and more of just the feeling and the being stuff.
Yeah. It's the way the way I kind of see it is like this. It's like letting the tide kind of take you as
Right.
opposed to fighting against it.
Right.
Um, and it's a dangerous that's a dangerous
Scary.
fucking place to be because if the tide takes you, you could never come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and to be able to let that tide take you but still come back, that's some fucking that's some ninja shit.
Yes. What was your experience like when you went to India? Were you searching for similar things?
Yeah, I was deeply interested and fascinated and needed to know about the nature of the mind. And that led me to Tibetan Buddhism. It led me to learning a lot about the philosophy of Buddhism. And the thing I loved about Buddhism, where I have, I suppose the religion I've had most experience with is Judaism because I'm born Jewish and I identify as being Jewish and I'm traditionally a Jew. I have Shabbat dinner every Friday night. I do the high holidays. We just had a beautiful Passover series of dinners and we invited a guest over. And I love, love, love the traditional side and I love identifying as a Jew. It's like
Mm,
a really beautiful thing, but there's a lot of the religious aspects of it that I don't necessarily identify with.
yeah.
But the Buddhist way of life, I really identified tremendously with because God is within you,
Yes.
and you have the ability and the power to be able to learn all these different things. And it's not these doctrines that, I mean, there are doctrines that you can, there are, blueprints and there are things that you can learn from, but ultimately it comes from within you.
Right.
And I learned so much from that. And there are certain just life rules that I still kind of live by. I try to live by, should I say.
So it's like, yeah, exactly. So for you, Buddhism is the practice, but Judaism is the culture or
I,
something like
I
that.
don't even know if I define it the way I kind of the way I've always kind of seen it is, and I can only speak for myself, is I'm an individual who has gone through 42 years of life, depending on whether you believe in multiple lives. Um,
498,000 years of
um, and every day is an experience that you just create your own philosophy and religion.
Mm,
Like, and I think everyone is that. But you are, I think a lot of people have a great deal of, and there's merit to it, I think, as well, to be able to just have like a blueprint to be able to kind of say, this is what I identify with, this is what I have faith in, and this is the way I'm going to do my damnedest to live my life by. I
yeah.
mean, even religious Jews, I see it all the time. I hope I'm not pissing anyone off when I say this, but you can have so many different, and I only speak about Judaism because it's the religion closest to me.
Mm,
You can have a highly orthodox person that will find loopholes
right.
because it serves them.
Right.
at it for a particular purpose in time. And then there's someone who will find a different loophole to be able to serve them in a different instance. And that's fine. And then there are other people that are like, they're not real Jews because they do this, that, and the other. It's like, I bet you've got your own loopholes, mate.
Right, right. Exactly, exactly. Yeah, it's, I think it really landed for me before when you were saying like it's a dance, is there a way to merge the two? It's like that Osho quote, every prostitute I meet wants to talk about God and every priest I meet wants to talk about sex, you know? And I think that's right. But I think I suppose just by getting to a place in my life now where I can see the end of my sort of tertiary journey, um, and then enjoying the process of just writing and, like, not that I'm particularly old yet or anything like that, but sort of hoping to age eloquently and perhaps one day be a father and all these things. Like, I feel the sense of like getting out of my own way, and not wanting to think about me anymore and feeling the boredom and the frustration of having an egocentric viewpoint, and all that sort of stuff that all my very dear friends like yourself and so on who have kids say that, despite all the challenges, that it gives you a lot of that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, what that Osho quote reminds me of when I went to my first silent meditation retreat, and we had a moment. Who we had a main teacher at the Gompa who kind of taught us main Buddhist philosophy, and this person was a Tibetan monk for like I think 30 years. Um, he was an American dude, but he had lived as a monk for many years, and we had a moment if we wanted to. So it was a silent retreat, but we had a moment to actually speak with him in privacy. And in my, moment with him, in privacy, I kind of just mentioned to him that in this 10 days of silence, I'm struggling to not think about sex. It's like there were just women everywhere here, silent retreat, and
dude,
I'm
your Buddhist gown is killing me right now.
and I'm wondering what they look like naked, and all that kind of stuff. And I just thought he was going to, come with some clarity, and he just looks at me and he goes, "There are some very, very attractive women here."
Did he really? So good. Oh my God. So good, but so human. So human.
So human, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the balance, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Wow. Wow. Paulie, it's these are great, man. We got to do them more often.
I love it. I absolutely love it, mate. Um, well, we are going to do it more often.
This is true. This is true. Yeah. Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Mate, let's keep it going. We've actually got something exciting for next week as well.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And yeah, looking forward to diving in again. That was a great little first jump into the deep, mate.
That's it. Yep. Back on the podcast being more regular and yeah, lots of exciting things to come. And yeah, I'm looking forward to next. We won't hint at any details just yet, but it'll be good. That'll be a good show.
It'll be great fun. Good
All
on you.
right, Paulie. All the best, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys.